So normally we get a little more of a reprieve between summer and the Q4, last 90 days, let's lock in, stuff that happens on the internet. But TikTok's starting early this year. I guess somebody out there realized that 90 days wasn't quite enough time to do all of the things you promised you were going to do in January, so they're giving us an extra month. Aren't they kind? So if your feed looks anything like mine, you have been bombarded with, this is it, squad. This is our time to shine. We're doubling down. We're pushing harder. We're gonna make good on all those resolutions we made at the end of the year. And I gotta admit, man, it is inspiring. I got a dog licking my hand. There's an electricity about it. Hello. Get down. Like, yes, I'm gonna buckle down. It is time to get serious. Can I? What are you doing? What are you doing? It feels like, yes, I am going to buckle down. I am going to get serious about this stuff. I am going to turn the last quarter into my comeback story. Except, here's the problem. For ADHD brains and for spoonies and for people who are already running on fumes because the first 8 months of the year took everything out of us, locking in is not motivation. It is a one-way ticket to Burnoutsville. And that train ride is powered by toxic productivity and pumpkin spice lattes. Listen, I get it because I too hear the siren call every year around this time. It is so seductive because you see all of these creators and they're talking about how they're going to cut out distractions. They're going to get up at 5 a.m. They're finally going to start their side hustle and they're absolutely going to read all of 50 books they promised they were going to read this year before the ball drops on New Year's Eve. And in your head, you're like, yes, that's who I want to be too. I want to be their highlight reel. I want to finish strong. I want to prove to myself that I did not waste an entire year. And you can't help thinking if I just push hard enough, I think I still have time to get there. But if you are someone who already burns out just living day-to-day life, adding a lock-in challenge on top of that is going to feel like running a marathon on a sprained ankle. You can do it, but it's not a good idea, babe. The real danger of locking in is that it directly plays into our all or nothing mindsets. And if you live with ADHD or you live with chronic illness or chronic pain, you're already familiar with this cycle. We go hard, we hyper-focus, we actually start to make some progress, and we convince ourselves, I'm doing it this time. I'm actually going to go the distance. And then 3 days or a week or maybe even a month later, reality punches us in our freaking faces. Our body says no, and our brains fizzle out, and we just cannot work through one more of life's curveballs. And suddenly, instead of locking in, instead of crushing it, instead of sprinting for the finish line, we're face down in bed beneath the crushing weight of failure because we couldn't lock in like everyone else did. That is not motivation. That's just self-destruction in a cute little curated package courtesy of the internet. And the absolute worst part of all of this is the timing. Q4 is already a nightmare. October, November, December? Come on, we've got family obligations. We've got school stuff to deal with. We've got travel. We've got work functions. Not to mention the financial chaos. It is literally the hardest quarter of the year to survive every single year. Locking in during this stretch of time is like saying, you know what would be fun? Juggling knives while riding on a unicycle across black ice. What could possibly go wrong? This is not doubling down on success. This is doubling down on exhaustion. Hey, can you do me a solid real quick and hit that like button? Thank you. Let me paint you a picture if I can. Imagine it's the second week of December. You have your holiday work party, 2 different concerts for 2 different kids. You've got 2 family members suggesting that you swing by their event. And you've got a to-do list that's longer than Santa's naughty list. Now go ahead and add that lock-in energy on top of all of that shit. Yes, exactly. On top of all of these things, I would love to wake up at dawn and do yoga and make myself a green smoothie while I journal before going on a 2-mile run. That sounds amazing. No, it doesn't. It sounds freaking terrible. And you know who pays the price? You. Your body, your brain, your spoons. Because of course, here's what actually happens when ADHD locks in. At first, it feels incredible. I cannot lie about that part because it's how we get into these cycles every time. Because starting feels so good. You are in, you're focused, you're buzzing with ideas. And yeah, when it starts, you are convinced you can do this forever. You are convinced this time is so different from every other time I've tried to do this. But then, as always happens, out of nowhere, a switch flips. And suddenly you're staring at those same systems that looked so magical 2 days ago, but now it feels like trying to climb Everest in flip-flops. Which, by the way, is how Yahoo described my fantasy football team's chances of trying to get to the playoffs this year. Whatever. My team's gonna dominate. Anyway, the point is the novelty of locking in wears off. The dopamine dries up like the Sahara. And the thing that originally felt like your salvation now just feels like torture. And instead of adjusting, instead of saying to yourself, hey, maybe I need a different approach, we blame ourselves. We spiral. We tell ourselves that same story that we are broken, we are failures, we are lazy. We refuse to blame the trend. We refuse to blame the content creators who show us only the times that following through are easy for them. And we refuse to acknowledge that none of this would have happened if we had just set our phones down and continued on with our normal lives in the first place. And listen, I get it. The worst part about accepting this is that we want to lock in. Of course, we're tired of always feeling behind. We're tired of looking back on our years and thinking we've wasted all of it. We're tired of breaking promises to ourselves. That's what makes this trend so tempting, because it promises some kind of redemption. It whispers to our dopamine goblins, maybe it's not too late. You can still be that person you want to be. And if you do have an ADHD brain, that whisper is actually a scream. The ideas of fresh starts, of a big push, of a final sprint, that is like candy to us. But the problem is, it's not real candy. It's more like that fake plastic fruit. It looks beautiful, but that is not there for you to take a bite of. So let me offer you a rebellious alternative to this lock-in trend, this end-of-year sprint strategy. Instead of locking in, let's lock out. Let's lock out the guilt. Let's lock out all those shoulds. Let's lock out the temptation to burn ourselves to the ground to be able to say that we finished strong. What if instead of pushing harder, we just gave ourselves permission to ease into the rest of the year? To survive it with a little energy left for January, to actually enjoy spooky season and any and every other holiday you celebrate in between. And we do it without treating everything like it's some kind of productivity obstacle that we need to crush beneath our trendy yet stylish boots. Because the real truth is, you don't have to lock in. You don't need to suddenly transform yourself into some Pinterest-worthy version that someone else told you needed to strive to be. You've been surviving all year through ADHD chaos, through Spoonie flare-ups, through burnout cycles, and through, you're not behind. You're right here. And honestly, that is incredible. Doubling down does not make you stronger. It just makes you more tired. And when you're already exhausted, that shit is not a vibe. It's just dangerous. Now, am I saying don't set goals for the rest of the year? Of course not. Goals can and should be fun. They give you something to aim for, something to stretch for. They give you a little bit of direction, right? but make them real goals. Make them realistic goals. Make them small. Make them flexible. Maybe make them cozy. Instead of saying to yourself, I'm going to work out every single day until New Year's Eve, just reframe it into a more gentle way. That I want to move my body in a way that feels good a couple times a week. Instead of, I'm going to clean and organize this entire house so we are ready to go on January 1st. Which, by the way, we forget is 4 months after we were going to go through our lock-in. But instead of that, maybe say, I'm going to clear this one surface so I have somewhere comfortable to sit with my coffee. Reframing things is not failure. It's strategy. It's choosing to make it to the end of the year without collapsing. Because be honest with yourself, when January comes, do you really want to spend it crawling out beneath the weight of your unrealistic ambitions? Or do you want to have enough spoons left to say, okay, let's go again? And that's why I'm not locking in. I'm not doubling down. I refuse to treat Q4 as an all or nothing race. I'm locking out. I'm locking out of guilt, and I'm locking out of hustle culture, and I'm locking out of trying to prove something to myself that wouldn't even have occurred to me if I hadn't seen someone else do it on the internet. Because I would rather survive the holidays with my sanity intact than try to win some kind of productivity Olympics that isn't even going to give me a medal at the end. So if you're feeling that pull, if you're feeling the temptation to lock in and sprint for that finish line in December, please hear me when I tell you you don't have to. You do not have to prove anything to anyone. You do not have to destroy yourself for a TikTok trend. You can rest. You can take things slow. You can be cozy and chaotic and still call it a win. Because at the end of the year, you'll still be here. And that's what matters. I hope that you enjoyed hanging out with me today. I hope that I was able to offer just a little bit of peace in a time when everyone around us is screaming, oh my God, the year's almost over. Technically, no, it's not. We've still got like 3.5 months, which is a ton of time. And maybe instead of chasing after all these goals and resolutions that we set in January, we should actually take a look at them and see if they were realistic to begin with. Could you have done it if you had 12 months? If the answer is no, you definitely can't do it in 4. And that is okay. We got to stop being so damn hard on ourselves, especially this time of year. So I hope that this video resonated with you, and I hope that, like I said, I hope you enjoyed hanging out with me today. Please don't forget to smash all those YouTube buttons for me and leave me a comment below and let me know if you were going to set a cozy goal for yourself for the end of the year, what would it be? Personally, I would love to be able to crochet gifts for everyone for Christmas. I don't have the time to do that, but I am absolutely going to finish the baby blanket that I started at the beginning of the year for my cousin's baby shower, and she has now had the baby, so I'm a little bit behind. But that's okay, and I'm just going to finish it for Christmas, and it's going to be beautiful. So I'm going to count that as a win. I love you so much, and I will see you next time. Bye.